Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor.
Scholars have kind of questioned and disagreed that we don't need to wait on the 2020 budget for the rate change. Your concern or thought is why are we waiting on the 2020 budget when historically in the past Iraq has never had to wait on the 2020 budget for any rate change? Well, then again, Iraq has never done a rate change where they've actually changed their currency by 3 to 4,000%. I hope you guys heard that clearly. This is not just a regular small pip rate change. This one is changing by 3 to 4,000% from where it's at. They've never done this before. Okay. So, and with that said, this one is huge because Iraq has had so much corruption in the past that I've already shown you guys where they stressed they need transparency with this budget. That is to reduce the and eliminate the corruption going forward. That's why all of this money has to be allocated because most of the stuff within the budget is for the rate change. Again, most of the items within the budget are for the rate change. All right, let's get into this, guys. I've grabbed a bunch of historical older article for you guys going back to July and August to tear down this budget for you. Okay, so here's an article from July of 2016. From July 16th of 2019. This one says that the 2020 budget will bring a large economic boom to the Iraqi economy. Okay, even this article summarizes post-rate change items within the 2020 budget. I've highlighted some red key points for you. So right there, that first one says that the 2020 budget will bring a boom to the Iraq economy. It tells you that it will include tables on internal and external indebtedness, taxes, customs, border crossings, and returns of state property. I hope you guys understood that all the previous budgets from 2019 and prior do not include taxes and customs from border crossings. Iraq cannot charge taxes at customs because their currency is not internationally recognized. So they're telling you right there, taxes from customs and border crossings, those are post-rate change items. So there you go. They're starting right there. Okay, the next article was from July 30th of 2019. It basically tells you that they need to have Article 140 uh, within the Constitution. They need to get it going. Remember, the current Constitution only goes up to Article 139. So they have to amend the current Constitution, add Article 140 to it to get it implemented. Okay? But guys, remember, it's waiting on the rate change. Now, I want you to look at the third paragraph down. Okay? It talks about how the Supreme Federal Court found that Article 140 of the Constitution of the Republic of Iraq called for 2005. Okay, so my point to you is Article 140, guys, has been pending and ready since 2005. Okay, again, they have not been able to implement it because it's been waiting on the rate change, but they're showing you right there. It's been pending and ready since 2005. That should tell you guys a lot. Okay, I want to stress that to you. All right, let's get into the next article. Okay, the next one says that the imminent entry of Article 140 of the oil and gas law into legislation reveals political dimensions. I'm not going to get into this article. It's just telling you the imminent entry of the oil and gas law, guys. That's the HCL. That's the hydrocarbon law. Okay. Since July, why have Kurdistan and Baghdad been having all of these talks? Because the Kurds, it's a circle. The Kurds owe Baghdad thousands of hundreds of thousands, approximately, articles are shared with us 250,000 barrels of oil per day need to be given to Baghdad from Kurdistan. But Kurdistan has turned around and said, well, you need to give us money for the oil and gas law and for Article 140. Okay? So that's why Kurdistan, in the meantime, they've been selling oil by themselves. They haven't actually been giving oil to Baghdad because they want their money for Article 140 and for the HCL from Baghdad. But Baghdad said, okay, if you want your money for 140 and for the HCL, you got to turn around and give us approximately 250,000 barrels of oil per day. So those are what the meetings have been about, guys. That's why they've been having meetings since July regarding the budget. The budget is a contract or agreement between Kurdistan and Baghdad for Kurdistan to give hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil per day to Baghdad, so the Baghdad will turn around and give Article 140 and HCL money back to Kurdistan. Okay, that's what all of this is about. So with them having these meetings, what they're doing is they're bringing post-rate change steps into a binding contract, which is that 2020 budget, to get it implemented. So what I'm trying to show you guys is everything pertaining to the rate change, as well as the demands of the demonstrators, are within this 2020 budget. The 2020 budget, from what I just showed you, it shows you it has an economic boom. It shows you it has taxes from borders and from border crossings and customs. That's post-rate change because none of the prior budgets have had taxes. Okay, it's got Article 140. It's got the oil and gas law. It has reconstruction. Okay, it has reforms in it. Everything you see right there, guys, is inside that 2020 budget. So the 2020 budget has to be done. It's the rate change is waiting on the 2020 budget. So there you guys go. It's right there, right before you. So that's huge, guys. But again, they're probably only going to do the first reading of the budget this year. Then most bankers and politicians around the world usually take a 30-day break from December 15th through January 15th. So then they'll continue the next two readings and the final vote of the 2020 budget, probably starting in the second half of January of next year, and probably finish the 2020 budget probably by the first part of March, maybe the end of February. We'll have to see on that. But either way, you then, after the budget, guys, so you already know we're waiting on that budget. You have to also look at accounting periods. That's why Kuwait did their rate change exactly when they did. Okay, Kuwait did theirs on March 24th of 91. That's because it's linked to accounting periods, because it's not a small rate change. Again, it's a rate change that will increase the value of their currency by 3,000 to 4,000%. So there you guys go. Have a great day.
Parliamentary Finance Budget 2020 will bring a boom in the Iraqi economy. July 16, 2019. Baghdad, the Obelisk, a source in the Finance Committee of the Parliamentary, on Tuesday, the date of receipt of the draft budget for the year 2020. While noting that the budget will bring a boom in the Iraqi economy, the source told local media that the Finance Committee agreed with the Ministry of Finance to receive the draft budget 2020 in September, noting that there will be a qualitative boom in the Iraqi economy through drastic changes in public expenditure and investment funds and services. The source, who preferred not to be named, said that the 2020 budget will be strengthened by the final accounts and will include tables on internal and external indebtedness, taxes, customs, border crossings, and returns of state property. He pointed out that the draft budget 2020 is now working on a specialized team, under the supervision of Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi, will include two prices of oil fixed and moving. Urgent. The federal court provides for the maintenance of Article 140 of the Constitution. July 30, 2019. Baghdad, the federal Supreme Court ruled the survival of the entry into force of Article 140 of the Constitution of the Republic of Iraq, stressing that it continues until the implementation of the requirements and achieve the goal of legislation. The federal Supreme Court held its session under the chairmanship of Judge Medhat al-Mahmoud and the presence of all members of the judges, and considered the request of the House of Representatives to interpret Article 140 of the Constitution in terms of its validity or not, said spokesman Asal Samak in a statement received by the Euphrates News Agency. The Supreme Federal Court found that Article 140 of the Constitution of the Republic of Iraq for 2005 called on the executive authority to take the necessary steps to complete the implementation of the requirements of Article 58 of the Transitional Administrative Law in all its paragraphs of the Constitution, He pointed out that the court found that this is to achieve the objectives stated in Article 58 of the Iraqi Transitional Administration Law aimed at achieving justice in the areas that have been subjected to a change in the demographic situation through deportation and exile and forced migration in accordance with the steps outlined in Article 58, mentioned above. The spokesman pointed out that the Federal Supreme Court found that these steps have not been completed and that the section has not been taken, and remains the goal of the development and legislation of Article 140 of the Constitution is required and the duty of implementation from all. The court affirmed that the date specified in the implementation of Article 140 of the Constitution has been set for regulatory matters and urged the concerned parties to implement them and do not affect their essence and achieve their objective. The Supreme Federal Court and therefore decided to stay the entry into force of Article 140 of the Constitution of the Republic of Iraq at present and until the implementation of the requirements and achieve the goal of its legislation in accordance with the steps outlined in Article 58 of the Iraqi State Administration for the Transitional Period. Parliamentary Finance, the imminent entry of the oil and gas law into the legislation, and reveal its political dimensions. Release date August 31, 2019, 21:46. A member of the Finance Committee revealed that the imminent entry into force of the oil and gas law. Committee member Sherwin Mirza said in a press statement, one of the recommendations made by the Finance Committee to the presidency of the House of Representatives after hosting the Minister of Finance is the legislation of the oil and gas law during the new legislative term. He added, the oil and gas law has political dimensions as it is linked to relations between the Kurdistan region and the federal government and the province of Basra and Baghdad and oil producing provinces in addition to Kirkuk. Mirza pointed out that the legislation of the oil and gas law will address some of the outstanding problems between the region and the center, in addition to addressing the problems of oil-producing provinces. Gadban, the Kurdish delegation came to Baghdad in order to increase the financial resources of Iraq. November 24, 2019. Thamar Gadban, Minister of Oil Economy News, Baghdad. Deputy Prime Minister and Oil Minister Thamar Gadban revealed on Sunday the results of talks between Baghdad and Erbil. Al-Gadban told the Iraqi news agency, INA, and was briefed by Al-Iqtisadiya News that the central government talks with the delegation of the region, which visited Baghdad on Saturday, focused on two main points. The first is a paper of principles governing the oil relationship between the region and the center with regard to the delivery of oil to the region. The second point concerns the financial side, including the salaries of employees and other financial benefits. He stressed that another delegation will visit Baghdad on Monday to conclude the main issues, noting that the atmosphere of the talks was good and positive with the delegation of the region, which in turn told the central government that they are fully authorized and have come to increase the financial resources of the country through the contribution of the region and oil source. Baghdad and Erbil towards a final agreement to solve the mystery of the outstanding issues in the oil land budget. November 24, 2019. Walter. Baghdad Obelisk. A high Kurdish delegation intends to go to Baghdad on Monday, within the framework of the completion of negotiations with the federal government, on the most prominent outstanding issues. The delegation of the region will discuss with Baghdad the budget for 2020, amid the likely signing of an agreement on the two sides at the end of the talks. According to Oil Minister Thamar Gadban, the government of Erbil pledged on Saturday to send revenues of 250,000 barrels of Kurdish oil to Baghdad, while oil experts say that the region's exports up to 560,000 barrels per day, as well as quantities smuggled from the fields of Kirkuk and Kayr the Star, which reaches 65,000 barrels per day. The representative of the Kurdistan regional government in Baghdad, Sunday, November 24, 2019, that the delegation of the region will go on Monday to Baghdad for a final dialogue on the draft federal budget for 2020. Faiz Issa, in a press statement, that it is scheduled at the end of the talks to be signed an agreement on the federal budget for 2020. The delegation of the Kurdistan region, yesterday, meetings in Baghdad with Iraqi officials, and then returned to Erbil, and held a meeting with the Prime Minister of the region Masroor Barzani and his deputy Quabad Talabani. As for the meeting Saturday, Issa said will be discussed tomorrow draft budget 2020, and likely to include the demands of the demonstrators and Kurds in the draft budget, and then will be sent to the parliament, and reiterated optimism to reach an agreement with the Prime Minister today. Demonstrators in the streets of the city and in the center of Baghdad and a number of provinces, with slogans demanding the Iraqi authorities to hold the Kurds accountable for the theft of oil money and displaced people and reconstruction. Activists in protest squares, in a report published by the Obelisk recently, that the region exports 600,000 barrels per day, not as claimed by 250,000, explaining that the average annual revenue of oil sold, estimated at $13 billion. In its latest report, Variety magazine revealed the value of the palaces bought by Mansour Barzani, son of Masoud Barzani, the former president of Iraqi Kurdistan in Los Angeles. The magazine said, Mansour, son of Masoud Barzani, former president of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, Barzanistan, bought 2 palaces in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, one worth $20 million and the other $27 million. Earlier this year, Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi said that the region has not delivered us $1 of the revenues of 250,000 barrels per day, overlooking that the real amount exported. Ali Abdul Mahdi, who has an old friendship with the Kurds, is known to have made all the decisions he made even when he was oil minister, reinforced the region's big gains. Hamza al-Jawahiri, an engineer and an oil expert, said that most of the energy agencies in the world indicate that the export from Kurdistan is about 560,000 barrels per day, as well as the quantities smuggled from the fields of Kirkuk, which is estimated at 35,000 barrels per day, in addition to other quantities of the fields of Khaira and the Star, up to 30,000 barrels per day. Jawahiri asserts that these oils are smuggled with the knowledge of everyone without indifference or fear of anyone. According to al-Jawahiri, according to the Constitution, all the production of the territory must go to the federal government, and this is the reality that everyone is trying to overlook. Sherwin Mirza, a member of the Finance and Economic Committee in Parliament, said on Sunday, the delegation of the region will discuss with federal government officials on issues of common interest between Erbil and Baghdad, including the oil and gas file, and the Iraqi public budget law for 2020 and the share of Kurds. He pointed out that it is hoped this time that the dialogues of the delegations of Erbil and Baghdad will produce positive results, because there is a remarkable rapprochement and understanding between the two sides. It is worth mentioning that, after many exchanges of visits between the delegations of the Iraqi government and the regional government to Erbil and Baghdad, many issues remain pending, including the issue of budget and oil.